There's a common concern I see among those wanting to start a plant-based diet lifestyle, and it's this. It's a fear that eating this way will cause them to seriously lack key nutrients because they're taking out meats, dairy, eggs, and other animal-based foods from their meals. Do you have this fear too? If so, iron might be one of those nutrients you are especially worried about when making this big lifestyle shift. Since meats are a source of iron, it's natural then to be wondering, will eating plant-based make me end up with nutrient deficiencies and get health problems like iron deficiency anemia? If you're wondering this, I want to help. In this episode, let's look at the importance of iron for our bodies, the prevalence of iron deficiency anemia, and what recent research is showing, so we can better answer this question. Ready? I'll meet you on the inside. Welcome to the Plant-Based Eating Made Easy podcast. I'm your host, Anna Zinn, plant-based registered dietitian and transition coach. Hi, friend. Do you want to regain your health with plant-based eating but feel overwhelmed and lost about how to do it? Do you feel it'll be hard to change your meat-heavy diet and impossible with working, running the home, or chasing after the grandkids? If so, you're in the right place. Here you'll find simple strategies, clear nutrition guidance, and practical tips to help you thrive plant-powered with more energy. So if you're ready to ditch the guesswork and transform your health the stress-free way, cozy up now with a hot cup of tea or listen while you walk, and let me show you how doable plant-based eating can be. Let's do this. I see many in my community with concerns about getting adequate nutrition on a plant-based diet. They're worried that if they make this lifestyle shift and don't eat enough or the right foods, they'll end up with big nutrition problems. And one common nutrient of concern, aside from protein, is iron. For example, I remember seeing this lady share about her biggest challenge eating plant-based. She said it was this: learning and ensuring I can receive proper nutrition and be sure my iron levels are sufficient. Someone else wanted to know, do all vegans have low iron levels? That's a great question. It speaks to the underlying worry many have about moving to plant-based eating and the impact it can have on their nutritional status. But there's so much to say on this subject that I decided to take this question and address it more fully in a podcast episode. So listen in as we unpack this topic. I hope this episode will bring you much clarity. First, what is iron and why is it important? In a nutshell, iron is a critical mineral that our body needs in order to function well. In red blood cells, iron forms a key part of a protein called hemoglobin. Red blood cells help transfer the fresh oxygen we breathe in from our lungs to other tissues and cells within our bodies. They then help to transfer the waste product of breathing, carbon dioxide, back to the lungs to be exhaled out. Besides this, iron plays many important roles in our body. It's key to know that there are two levels of severity with low iron levels. The first is iron deficiency itself, which is defined as a drop of the total content of iron in the body. A more severe situation is iron deficiency anemia, or IDA, which occurs when the iron deficiency condition has become severe enough to reduce erythropoiesis, which is the production of red blood cells. How common is iron deficiency anemia? According to the World Health Organization, WHO, it is estimated that about half of the 1.62 billion cases of anemia worldwide are due to iron deficiency anemia. In fact, iron deficiency is seen to be the single most prevalent nutritional deficiency worldwide. In the United States, it accounts for anemia in about 5% of American women and 2% of American men. So yes, men can get iron deficiency anemia too. Now let's look at the key episode question. Do all vegans or plant-based eaters have low iron levels? To answer this question, let's look at what some of the recent research says. In 2022, a systematic review of 141 studies was published in the journal Nutrients. It looked at the nutrient intake and status of adults consuming plant-based diets compared to meat eaters. The results? Out of 4 iron studies that specifically assessed iron deficiency, it was found that the average prevalence of iron deficiency was 15% in vegans. So right there, we see from the study that 85% of vegan participants assessed in the analyzed studies didn't have iron deficiency. They had adequate iron levels. This effectively answers our question that not all vegans or plant-based eaters have low iron levels. That's reassuring to know. And in my own experience and from interacting with clients and others in my community, I know that to be the case as well. Now you may be wondering, is there a difference in iron deficiency prevalence among vegans compared to meat eaters? And the answer is yes. There appears to be a slight difference at this point, though results vary among different studies. In the 2022 systematic review I just touched on, researchers reported a slightly higher prevalence of iron deficiency in vegetarians and vegans, at 11% in vegetarians and 15% in vegans, compared to 7% in meat eaters. In 2018, a different study was published by Roman Pollack and colleagues. It was a review of literature on the iron status of vegetarian adults from studies done in 10 countries. Among 6 studies in which ferritin levels among vegetarian and non-vegetarian participants were reported, 5 studies did report female vegetarians to have lower serum ferritin values than female omnivores, though one study found female vegans having higher mean ferritin values than female non-vegetarians. But in general, this study found a higher proportion of vegetarians compared to non-vegetarians having iron deficiency anemia. This was especially true for premenopausal vegetarian women. However, another recent study found a different result. In a 2021 study published in the journal Biomolecules, researchers measured a variety of blood markers for iron status in 191 healthy adults residing in Norway from 3 diet groups: vegan, vegetarian, and pescatarian. They found that the median concentration of blood markers for iron status were within the normal range for each diet group, and that there was no significant difference between the groups. As a result, researchers stated that their data suggests that even on a vegan diet, it is possible for both genders to obtain adequate iron status as measured by these blood markers. The use of iron supplementation was also low in all 3 groups. Keep in mind that the results from the 3 studies mentioned here are associations and not definite causations. So more studies are definitely needed in this area to determine if eating plant-based will really cause a greater likelihood of getting iron deficiency or iron deficiency anemia. Personally, I feel the jury is still out on this topic, and here are 4 main reasons why. First, all research studies have limitations. Since human research studies are often conducted in the real world, there will be limitations to how the research can be conducted for ethical reasons, and it will be impossible to remove all confounding factors. For example, in the 2022 systematic review I referred to earlier, the prevalence level attained was based off of only 4 studies. There's also no clear indication of what the participants in the reviewed studies on a vegan or vegetarian diet actually ate. However, we do know that the researchers had excluded overly restrictive plant-based diets like the raw food diet and macrobiotic diet, and healthy diets designed to lower non-communicable diseases like the DASH diet and Mediterranean diet. To me, this exclusion appears to mean that even studies with a focus on a whole food plant-based diet would have been excluded, which is unfortunate. If this is the case, we won't know if those eating a whole food plant-based diet would have better iron biomarkers since they are eating more nutrient-rich natural whole plant-based foods regularly. Obviously, food choices can affect iron intake and status. So, if the majority of the participants in the review ate a junk food vegan diet with lots of highly processed commercial vegan products, that would certainly negatively impact their iron status. Also, for vegetarians with a diet heavy in dairy products, their iron intakes can be affected as well, since dairy products contain little to no iron. Second, most people on a vegan or vegetarian diet moved into this way of eating at some point in their life. Few people would have started a full plant-based or vegan diet in late infancy once they started solids. Yet, there are no studies so far that have looked into the prior iron status of participants before starting a vegan diet, and then tracked them over time to see the percentage that develop iron deficiency or iron deficiency anemia due to this diet change. As you can see, this is an important detail to know because it is very possible that at baseline, a participant may have had a low iron level prior to even starting plant-based eating. For example, in 2023, a study was published in the Journal of American Medical Association looking at the prevalence of iron deficiency and iron deficiency anemia in U.S. females aged 12 to 21 years of age, using National Health and Nutrition Examination Survey or NHANES data. From the data analyzed between 2003 and 2020, researchers found that almost 40% of females in this age group had iron deficiency, and iron deficiency anemia affected 6%, with variation by the ferritin or hemoglobin thresholds used. Obviously, the majority of these females were on a regular diet, not a vegan diet. So if low iron levels is so prevalent among 12 to 21-year-old females in the United States, it is very likely that a good number of them already had existing low iron levels prior to moving to a vegetarian or vegan diet. Third, the possible higher prevalence of iron deficiency seen in the vegan and vegetarian populations may be partly due to a lack of adequate education and awareness. The majority of the participants in these studies analyzed may not be aware of good iron-rich plant-based sources or of smart strategies to easily boost iron absorption. If this knowledge was actually learned and applied to their way of eating, then it is possible that their iron intake from foods and biomarker levels would be changed positively. Fourth, there could be many other reasons for iron deficiency anemia to occur, without it being a nutritional intake issue. I know of one research article that listed 20 potential specific causes of iron deficiency anemia, besides having a deficient iron intake. I even came across a 2019 review article on iron that listed 24 conditions or situations where iron deficiency and iron deficiency anemia could occur. Situations that could increase the risk of getting iron deficiency anemia include times of increased iron requirements, such as during pregnancy, excess blood loss from heavy menses, gastrointestinal tumors, use of certain medications, bariatric surgery, and health conditions such as chronic kidney disease and inflammatory bowel diseases like celiac disease. So today, we looked at a common question many have when starting plant-based eating, and that is, do all vegans or plant-based eaters have low iron levels? And I showed you that while a percentage of vegetarians and plant-based eaters do have iron deficiency and iron deficiency anemia, the majority of those on a vegan or vegetarian diet don't. It's clear that not all vegans or plant-based eaters automatically get low iron levels, and that's reassuring to know. We also saw that a percentage of those on a regular diet also have iron deficiency and iron deficiency anemia. Though there may be a slightly higher prevalence of vegans and vegetarians having this diagnosis than among meat eaters, more studies are definitely needed to explore this area better. And I gave you 4 reasons why I feel the jury is still out on this topic. In my opinion, the research literature I've seen so far isn't answering my question yet of how a whole food plant-based diet would impact iron status, especially if smart strategies are used to boost iron intake and iron-rich foods are eaten regularly on a plant-based diet. So in my view, in order to truly determine if eating plant-based would increase one's risk of getting iron deficiency or iron deficiency anemia, better designed studies are needed. If I could design one, this is what my research study would look like. I would conduct a large-scale prospective study following participants over at least 10 years. At baseline, the participants' past food and diet history and iron status would be tested. Then participants would be randomized to be on either a whole food plant-based diet with nutrition education on iron sources and strategies to boost iron absorption, and those on a whole food plant-based diet who don't receive this education, plus a third control group who make no diet changes. All groups will not be supplementing food intake with iron supplements. Researchers would then track participants over time to see changes in food intake using periodic weighed food records and blood iron biomarker tests to assess iron status. They will do this while monitoring the incidence of other factors such as heavy menses and medical conditions that can contribute to low iron levels occurring in these individuals. I know that's a lot, but a girl can dream, right? So what's the takeaway? Among other things, this discussion today brings home to me the point of how important it is to plan out the foods we eat on a plant-based diet. It's not just about avoiding meats and other animal-based products in your meals. The quality of your plant-based diet is also very important, as well as knowing smart strategies to maximize nutrition eating this way. If your plant-based diet is well thought out, the number of nutrients you need to be concerned about lacking on a plant-based or vegan diet is actually less than you think. But it's important to plan your plant-based diet well if your goal is for optimal nutrition long-term eating this way. So if you would like support and help to plan out your diet transition so you can truly thrive eating plant-powered for life, send an email to me at healthnow@plantnourish.com. You can also apply for a free rapid health transformation call using the links in the show notes. I'll show you that plant-based eating can be simple and doable even with your current health challenges, and how to get the best nutrition eating this way. I look forward to connecting with you. Thank you so much for listening. If this podcast has inspired, encouraged, or helped you in some way to transform your health, I would love to hear about it. Please take 30 seconds to rate and leave a written review on Apple Podcasts to let me know. It will encourage me so much to hear how this podcast has positively impacted and made a difference in your journey towards wellness. And share about this podcast with a friend or loved one so we can all thrive in the best health. Remember, plant-based eating can be easy and doable. See you in the next episode, my friend.